What is going on, y'all? This is Pay Me in Dividends, and today is October 4th, 2025. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, I talk about different ways to make money in the stock market. Now, look at Bitcoin, $122,000 a coin. Yesterday, it touched 123, I believe. I remember seeing it on my phone. Is that 123? Right now it's at 122, but we are touching all-time highs again. All right, so if we look at the past 5 days, Bitcoin is up almost 7% in the past 5 days. If we look at the chart year to date, it is up around 30% year to date. Outstanding, right? 1 year 100%. So it's getting a bit wild, right? Bitcoin is doing its thing. Now, with that said, I want to show you guys ways that you can take advantage of Bitcoin's volatility and its increase in price, and you can generate some passive income through the stock market. All right, so there's several different ETFs. We're going to cover about 10 of them in this video, about 10 or 11 of them. All of them use different strategies. Some of them do overlap and use similar strategies, but all of them are crypto related. Not necessarily just Bitcoin related, but crypto related in one form or another, and they produce income. All right, so we're going to start off with the OG, which is BITO. All right, BITO is from ProShares. Now, BITO is the first US Bitcoin linked ETF. All right, so this is why we're starting off with it. So what does BITO do? Well, BITO, they invest in futures and swaps and does not directly invest in Bitcoin. All right, so this is something to keep in mind with these ETFs, such as BITO, is they do not directly invest into Bitcoin. What they do is they invest into futures and swaps, and this is how they're able to generate that income to pay you out that dividend. All right, and if you go down here to their holdings, you can see their holdings down here, right? You can see the swaps, you can see the futures, Bitcoin futures. You can see that they don't actually hold any pure Bitcoin, but they're still able to generate income. All right, so if we go to their distributions, we'll start off at 2023, right? They've been out for a couple of years now. Again, this is the OG Bitcoin ETF, income ETF, and we can see that they pay on a monthly basis, right? So this is all of 2023. You have all of 2024, and now you have 2025, and they pay on a monthly basis. Now, what you will notice is that these payments fluctuate, and that is because they are, again, they're using swaps, they're using futures, they're not actually holding any Bitcoin. So the payments on a monthly basis are all based on how much income they're able to extract from the market on that given month. All right, so BITO is the first one, and we're going to kind of go through these quickly because, again, there's about 10 or 11 of them, but I just want to give you guys the ticker symbols and a very brief rundown of what these are, and then you can go ahead and do further research before you decide whether or not you want to invest in these, or you may be invested into them already and you just want to get a quick refresher on what these are. All right, so the next one is YBTC from Roundhill, and as you can see, the dividend yield is around 46%, and you can see here on their overview, YBTC is the first US listed covered call ETF, Bitcoin covered call ETF. All right, and so the fund offers exposure to ETPs that have direct exposure to Bitcoin, subject to a cap, meaning that your upside is capped, right? Because they are performing options, and so that upside is capped. So when Bitcoin goes up, YBTC will not capture all of that growth, but it will generate that income. All right, and YBTC has over $300 million in assets under management. You can see the expense ratio here is 0.96%, and just keep in mind that for most of these covered called ETFs or high yield income ETFs, the expense ratio is going to be higher than traditional growth ETFs because these are actively managed. All right, you can see management style active because they are actively trading and performing options in order to produce that income for shareholders. All right, so you can see here they are doing options on YBIT, which is the BlackRock spot ETF for Bitcoin, and this is how they generate their income. So if we go down here to distributions, we can see that this one pays on a weekly basis. All right, they pay on a weekly basis, so this is a weekly income play, and you can see the payouts here. Again, the payouts are going to fluctuate. You can see their most recent payout was 39 cents. The one prior was 41 cents. The one before that 39. So the past few payouts have been consistent, but if you go through the entire history of it, the payments do fluctuate. Again, it's based off of how much income they can extract from the market on that given month. All right, so that was the second one, YBTC. The next one we're going to go over is YETH, YETH, which is an Ethereum covered call strategy. This one is currently paying 73% yield, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, but they basically deploy a similar strategy as YBTC, except this one is on Ethereum. Same thing, they pay on a weekly basis. You can see the payments here. They do fluctuate based on how much income they can generate that given month. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one, but this one is YETH from Roundhill as well. So you have YBTC and you have YETH from Roundhill. Now moving on to BTCI, which is an ETF that I personally hold. I really like Neos funds because of their tax advantages. The way they write their options are very tax favorable for people who are investing into this ETF in a taxable brokerage account. Now BTCI pays on a monthly basis. They're currently yielding around a 27% annualized yield that is, again, paid on a monthly basis. The expense ratio is 0.98%. And what I like most about this ETF is the fact that they have exposure to the spot ETF, HODL, HODL, which invests directly into Bitcoin. And this spot ETF makes up around 23% or 1/4 of the underlying assets. The rest of, and you can see they actually added some YBIT as well, only about 1% of YBIT. I would suspect maybe they plan on increasing that position, but yeah, around 1/4 of their portfolio of their underlying assets is in spot Bitcoin ETFs, which means that they get that direct exposure to Bitcoin, and then the rest of the portfolio is obviously treasury bills, which is cash on hand, in order to perform these options so that they can pay out that dividend yield. Now, another thing I want to note is their distributions. All right, so you'll notice in 2024 they only had 3 payments, right? This ETF came out in October of 2024. So if we look at all the payments for 2025, we can see that the payments do fluctuate, but they are all over $1 a share. All right, meaning that you do get consistency and you are able to somewhat predict how much monthly income you're going to generate with this ETF, unlike some of these other crypto ETFs that fluctuate heavy because they're just dependent on futures and swaps and things like that, whereas BTCI actually holds a portion of their underlying assets in a spot ETF. So there's a little more consistency there, right? And also their yield, they're not overextending themselves on the yield. It is still high yield. It's 27% paid on a monthly basis, but they're not overextending themselves. All right, so that is BTCI from Neos, and we're gonna move over to YBIT from yieldmax. All right, So YBIT is currently paying a 40% dividend yield. Now, this one I'm not too familiar with. I do know about it, but I've never invested into it myself. But from the looks of it, it pays out on a monthly basis. Same thing. It is the payments are going to vary depending on how much they were able to extract from the market on that month. All right, so if we go down here, we can see that the expense ratio is 0.99%. If we look at the holdings, we can pretty much see it looks like they don't hold any shares. It looks like these are all options. If you see this here, IBIT, and then you see a date with a C, that just means they're selling a call right there on IBIT. This is like the expiration date right here, October 10th, 2025. So that means that they're not actually holding these shares long term. These are just options. All right. So looks like this entire ETF is synthetic, meaning that you're going to get capped on the upside return. And if we go back here and look at the chart very quickly, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, right? So this ETF has been out since April of 2024. And as we know, since April of 2024, Bitcoin has gone up, you know, just in the past year, 100%. And so YBIT over the past year is down 16%. All right, so that right there tells you exactly how this thing operates. And you're probably going to have to reinvest those dividends in order to really get any type of return. But it is an ETF that pays income, and so it may be something that you would consider in your portfolio. All right, so the next one we're going to look at is LFGY, which pays a 60% yield. Now this one is a crypto industry and tech portfolio option income ETF. Now this one has a bit more diversification. All right, let's look at the holdings. What they do here is they invest into crypto related companies, or companies that are indirectly invested into crypto. So you get a bit more diversification here. As you can see, about 9% of their holdings is in IBIT. All right, iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF. And then you have Coinbase, you have Robinhood, you have MicroStrategy, you have, you know, all of these different crypto related companies along with IBIT. So you get a bit more diversification here, which may help with keeping that share price stable. All right, and this one does pay on a weekly basis. All right, so that's LFGY from yieldmax. Now next we're going to look at two from Amplify ETFs. All right, they have BAGY and they have BITY, but we're going to talk about BAGY right now, BAGY. Now this one is a Bitcoin max income covered call ETF, and it seeks 30 to 60% annualized option premiums and Bitcoin price appreciation potential up to 5% each week. All right, so 4 times more options. BAGY uses weekly call options seeking to collect premiums 4 times more often than monthly options, enabling the potential for compounded income and enhanced Bitcoin price returns. All right, so if we go down here, we'll see that they do pay on a monthly basis. The yield is around 33%, and we can see this is a newer ETF, but we can see that their payouts have been pretty consistent. All right, all over $1. Looks like the lowest one so far has been $1.38, and the highest one has been $1.53. And if we go down here, we can see the top holdings, which are basically Bitcoin futures. All right, so it says buy. What they do is they buy Bitcoin exposure through Bitcoin ETPs and options. They write calls, right? They roll those options on a weekly basis, replacing expiring covered call options, and then they distribute that income, that option income, in the form of a dividend on a monthly basis. All right, so this one is BAGY from Amplify ETFs. Again, it pays a 33% annualized yield on a monthly basis. Now, Now we have BITY, BITY, from the same ETF manager, and this one deploys a bit different strategy. So they seek about 2% monthly option income, which comes out to around 24% a year, right? 23.63%, and that is paid out on a monthly basis. So this yield is a bit lower than the previous one we looked at from the same company, but you may get a bit more stability over the long term because they're not paying out as much dividend income. All right, so if we go down to the holdings, you'll notice that this one actually holds YBIT, right? Similar to BTCI, like we spoke about earlier in this video. This one actually holds YBIT. Therefore, they're paying a lower yield, but you're getting more price stability and you're getting more of that upside when Bitcoin goes up in price. So these two from Amplify ETFs may even be a good pair, because BAGY, you're getting over a 30% yield, and then BITY, you're getting a lower yield around 24%, but you're capturing more of that upside growth. So that could be a strategy that you deploy where you kind of combine the two, and so you get some of that upside when Bitcoin increases in price, and then you also continue to generate that high yield monthly income. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one, which is MAXI, ticker symbol MAXI. This one is from Simplify ETFs, and this one right now, let's see what they are yielding. It looks like they're yielding around 45% annualized dividend yield, and it is paid out on a monthly basis. Now, one thing to note is the expense ratio on this, right? It is 6.1%. If we look at the chart on this thing, let's look over the past year. It is up 41% over the past year, 13% year to date. So it has performed pretty well as an ETF. My only concern is that expense ratio, right? That is a crazy high expense ratio. I'm not sure if there is some type of catch behind it or something that I'm missing. If any of you guys know what the net expense ratio is, or if this is the same as the gross, you guys let me know in the comments. But either way, this is just another crypto ETF. They do hold YBIT. It looks like they hold around 77% of their portfolio in YBIT. And the interesting thing about this ETF is they're actually doing options on gold. You can see GLD right here. They got some put options. They have a call option on YBIT, and so they're doing options on different indexes. So it is diversified, right? And they are holding that spot ETF YBIT from iShares, right? BlackRock, and so you do get that upside potential, like I just showed you on the chart, right? You see that share price increase, and you're also getting a 40-something% monthly dividend yield. Again, my only concern with this one is that expense ratio, right? That is extremely high. So just something to take into consideration. But that is MAXI from Simplify ETFs. And the last one I want to show you guys is BLOX. All right, this is BLOX. All right, now I'm really starting to grow to like this one. Let's go back very quickly before we get into it to show you guys the chart. So this one has been out since around June of 2025. It is still very new, but since inception it is already up 34%. If we look at the past 5 days, it is up 12% in the past 5 days. All right, and what I like about this one is if we go down here to the holdings, you can see the diversification. All right, so they have different companies here that we all know, right? We have Robinhood, we have Coinbase, we have Taiwan Semiconductor, we have Nvidia, Morrow Holdings, right? And so what they are doing here is they are basically selling options on these different companies, these highly volatile companies that are crypto related, and they are able to generate that option income. I believe they also hold some Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. If you look at the if you download all the holdings here, but we're not going to do that in this video. But it is a crypto related ETF. And another thing that I noticed is their payments since inception have been extremely consistent. Look at this, right? They pay on a weekly basis, and you can see the lowest payment was 13 cents a share, and the highest payment was 16 cents per share. So there's not much deviation here. There's not much variation in payments. You're getting a consistent payout, and so it makes it this is a very valuable thing for people who are planning to live off of this type of income. You're able to really budget and plan out your future expenses when you're invested into these type of ETFs, because you have a general idea of how much you're going to make on a weekly and a monthly basis. Now again, this ETF is still extremely new, so I wouldn't put your entire portfolio into it, but it is one to keep an eye on, and it's definitely on my watch list personally. And maybe within the next few months going into 2026, I will consider adding it to my portfolio, but for now I'm keeping an eye on it. But I do like what it's been doing as a crypto income ETF since inception. Now this one does not have a dividend yield on its website, which is happens a lot with these newer ETFs or these ETFs that have a higher yield. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the most recent payout, which will be paid out on Monday, and it is 16 cents per share, right? So now they're paying 52 weeks a year, right? And so 16 cents times 52, and then we're going to look at the current share price, all right, which is 25.68. So we're going to divide this by 25.68, and we get around 34%. All right, so they are paying around a 34% annualized yield, and it is paid out on a weekly basis with these very, very, very consistent payouts. Again, the share price is going up with the market, which is a great sign. And then one last thing to note is the expense ratio, which is 1.03%, which is high for compared to traditional investments. But just again, like I mentioned earlier in this video, keep in mind with these high yield ETFs, the expense ratios are going to be higher because these ETF managers have to actively manage these ETFs in order to make sure that all their options and things like that are going smoothly, because that's how they generate the income, right? They extract that option income, that option premium out of the market, and then that's how they pay the dividend to their investors. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up this video. Again, that was BLOX, but again, that's just a list of different ETFs, crypto related ETFs that you can consider to put in your portfolio. Because again, look at Bitcoin. It's at $122,000 a coin as of today, October 4th, and it's only going to continue to go up over time. We will see ebbs and flows. We will see pullbacks. We will see extended, pullbacks. But over time, I believe Bitcoin will continue to go up. I believe that it will continue to be volatile, which is great for options because you're able to capture that volatility and create yield and income from it. So again, just a quick list of some crypto related income ETFs that you can consider for your portfolio. You guys let me know in the comments, did I miss out on any ETFs? I know there's a ton more of crypto related ETFs. You guys let me know in the comments your favorite ones. As always, I appreciate you stopping by the channel, and I will catch you in the next video.